Dear students, good morning. Let us start the discussion on 05th, 06th September 2017. Yesterday, due to Ganesh Nimajjan in Hyderabad, internet services are disrupted. So, I'm uploading these two newspapers today itself. And the video length is expected to be a bit on higher side as there are two newspapers today. Now, the most important aspect for discussion is BRICS. So, BRICS has happened after the Doklam standoff. It has provided for an emphasis on renewing the ties between India and China. The BRICS summit has declared Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed as terror groups which are threatening the regional stability. It means that indirectly China has accepted cross-border terrorism emanating from the soil of Pakistan. It is a big diplomatic victory for India. And the second aspect is, Masood Azhar is to be designated as an international terrorist, which was opposed by China before UN Security Council 1267 committee. Now, it appears that the decks are cleared to announce Mr. Azhar as an international terrorist. And second aspect is, taking forward this action or putting this statement into action is the logical step forward. And then, communication and security of communication is becoming a major issue in governance today. And government, in line with securing the communication among the top bureaucrats of the country, has provided for smartphones which are encrypted. These are in addition to the existing landline phones, which are RACS phones, which are as they are called as. Now, let's come to the editorial page. Making up for the last time. This is about Myanmar and India relations. Now, India and Myanmar have strong cultural connections, but however, there are certain irritants. As Myanmar shifted towards a military regime, the relations have taken a steep fall. And military regime has moved close to East Asia rather than to South Asia, and China-Myanmar relations got strengthened over years. But however, China's relations with Myanmar today can be more said as exploitative. So lack of legitimacy for the Myanmar's military junta has made it vulnerable to the Chinese strong arm tactics. Slowly, it is making Myanmar to tilt towards India. So today, Myanmar looks for a rebalancing with two strong economies of its neighborhood, that is India and China. And second aspect of this is the Belt and Road Initiative if you take, and even string of pearls if you take. So Myanmar, ports in Myanmar, natural deep water ports in Myanmar are important points. And also it has been apprehended that the China has installed some telescopes to look into Indian territory, especially Andaman Nicobar Islands and Kukawa Islands of Myanmar. So that was the deep engagement, and China is the largest trade partner, and also China is the largest defense supplier to Myanmar today. But a rebalancing is being taught by the Myanmar, and in this process, India's role has become very much important. And second is infrastructure. India wanted to develop Kaladan multimodal project and trilateral highway in Myanmar. But the process is very slow. Implementation is very slow. It is expected that by 2022, a handful of these projects will be completed and that will give a strong footing for India in Myanmar. And third is trade. In 2012, it was estimated that the trade shall be around $3 billion. But majority of the trade happens in pulses. India imports large amount of Myanmar's pulses, and rice from Myanmar is exported to China. Some efforts were made to import rice into India, but they were not successful. With regard to pulses, India is also expecting itself to be self-sufficient. So obviously, there is a need for diversification of trade with Myanmar. And democratic transition in Myanmar. So you know that National League for Democracy has come to power. But important portfolios like defense, border management, home, all these are in the hands of the military junta. And military junta also enjoys veto over the decisions of the government. But as country becomes more democratic, it will provide for more leverage for India in relations with Myanmar. So Myanmar is also strategically important for India as it provides a way out for India to Southeast Asia along with the Bangladesh. And security perspective, Northeast Asia insurgency and their traditional home or hideout is in Myanmar. So, if it has to be decreased or countered, relations with Myanmar are pivotal importance to India. And to arrest the drug trafficking, money laundering, Myanmar also plays an important role. And in this context, India has conducted something called hot pursuit to track down NSC and Kaplong faction. In the process, chest thumping by Indian government, it has weakened its relations or joint operations with Myanmar. So in this context, having a cordial relation is very critical rather than claiming the victory over a small nation next to it. So these are the points which we have to remember. It is the time both the countries have to remember that they are more than neighbors. And cultural relations, if you come on to this point, India is invigorating, or India is reconstructing the pagodas in Ananda temple, and which the Prime Minister is expected to open. These are the few things. Mind the mandate. Obviously, in a country with diversities, there can be a conflict between the national priorities of the union government and regional priorities and regional aspirations of the local government. So, in this context, its union government is pressing for nationalism, and then people in Assam are inclined towards their Assamese identity. So the major dispute is the new amendments which are supposed to be brought into the citizenship. According to this, people who are getting persecuted, they will be considered and provided a citizenship in India from the neighboring countries. That is countries Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan. So it provides for the illegal immigrants who are living in Assam a free cover or a free extension to become the citizens for non-Muslims. So this is an area of contention with Assamese people. And second is, Assam has its own literary tradition, reform, everything. So in Assam, the new colleges which are being started by the government are named after Deen Dayal Upadhyaya, which is resisted by the Assamese civil society. So in this context, the existing governments, BJP governments at center and the states, are caught between the nationalistic agenda and the regionalistic aspirations of the people. This is the dilemma of any country with diversity and with federalism. And then, saber rattling. This is about North Korea's nuclear tests. North Korea has vehemently went forward and tested the hydrogen bomb. Obviously, it is going to change the balance of power in Korean Peninsula. It also tested a ballistic missile. It flew the ballistic missile over Japan. So one way, Japan and Korea are the allies of United States of America. So in that case, it is posing a direct threat between North Korea and the United States of America. And USA is deploying the third missiles, the high altitude missiles, so which was opposed by China. And then Japan is also moving forward with militarization, and it is denouncing its pacifist tendencies, which have been important in its economic growth after the Second World War. And the second is, China and Russia are playing their cards. They want to increase their bargaining power through North Korea. So though they have condemned the bomb testing by North Korea, so they did not provide for overt sanctions against North Korea. China is the largest trading partner of North Korea as on today. And United States of America is also strong in its condemnation, and it is being threatful to get into war. So that will be a lose-lose situation for both the countries. And in this context, the way forward is a direct talk with the North Korean leader. If not, the major reason, if you have to understand here, he wants to see North Korea to be a de facto nuclear state. Mr. Kim Jong-un sees it gives him the necessary legitimacy to run the country and necessary voice or strength to negotiate with the West. So, The way forward is to bring him in the network of talks. Previously, the six-party talks have failed because of the change of attitude and policy in the United States of America. Now it is expected that there has to be some consistency on this. Down but not out. The PSLV C-39 has failed to keep IRNSS 1H satellite in the orbit. After 39 successful flights, this is the first failure to PSLV as a rocket, as a launching vehicle. So in this context, it gives us a strong reminder that every launch, irrespective of how many successes we had in the past, is a fresh launch, and we need to be conscious about that. Who are the first settlers of India? I think this is a good article for the students with anthropology as optional. So there are early settlers and late settlers. How this evolution perspective is being calculated based on archaeological evidences or genetics. Using the gene markers, they try to find out what is the ancestry of these particular genes. And archaeological remnants and their dating also provides valuable inputs. Now there appears some conflict between these two. The genetic indicators show that the late settlement in Indian soil, and then that is there is a volcano in Indonesia, that is I think Toba volcano in Indonesia. So before its eruption it is called early settlement, after eruption it is called late settlement. So the genetic studies, genetic markers, they talk about the late settlement. But however, the latest archaeological evidences are showing for early settlement on the Indian subcontinent. That's what is the article says. At the end, I gave you the notes which will be available to you at laix.in/civilsprep. Now let's get into the today's newspaper. The Modi and Xi meets flags forward-looking ties, border peace. So after the Doklam standoff, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping met for the first time, and they are looking for a forward-looking ties. In this, the border management and peace at the border is very critical. So the countries are going to look at new mechanisms of engagement and the principles of the Panchashil. Now coming to, there is Rohingya in all of us. If we have to remember the history of India, we can use the word compassion and a melting pot of different cultures, ways of life. Ancient, medieval, modern, India, everywhere India was a melting pot for different cultures. It has assimilated diversities in it. And in the modern India, a post-independent India, India has accepted Tibetan refugees. India also has accepted refugees from East Pakistan, the present Bangladesh. And then, today with Rohingyas, the center has taken a very tough stand, and it is to send them back. When a person is considered as a refugee, he will have certain protections under UN human rights, or UN Human Commission on Refugees provide for these protections. And then, when a person is considered as an illegal immigrant, obviously he will lose all these protections. Rohingyas are regarded as illegal immigrants by the union rather than as refugees. And second thing, these are the stateless citizens who are being persecuted in Myanmar, and they are also victims of the violence of the state. So in this context, India has to think twice before deporting them. And Indianness is about showing compassion towards the people who lost their home. That's what the essence of this article is. Staring down censorship. In China, censorship is a normal and it is not a deviant behavior. So in this context, China Quarterly is a scientific magazine published in English, published by Cambridge University Press. There were sanctions imposed on its publications recently in China. And second, China is also talking about internet sovereignty. It is about the control over the internet. The national government shall be able to control internet and spread of the data, that is access and content. So this is all in alignment with censorship, which the Communist Party of China is talking about. And then back on track, it is about India-China relations. At the BRICS summit, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed are declared as the international terror organizations. Obviously, it means, as they are international terror organizations, the Masood Azhar of Jaish-e-Mohammed shall come under UN Security Council 1267 Committee as an international terrorist. This is a shift in Chinese stand. And second is, the border mechanisms also need to be revisited, relooked into. Why the standard operating procedures have failed. The special representative talks have to be enlarged in their scope. And finally, India-China shall have to look for the synergies in their engagement, especially in creation of inclusive and multilateral trade engagement, and also to fight the growing protectionism in the world. So these are the things they have to work back on. And then, let's coming to the newspaper. Legal luminaries divide on Tamil Nadu governor's silence. You can use this as a governor's role in Indian politics. Now, as there is a split faction in Tamil Nadu, obviously a confidence motion has to be passed on the floor of the house. But it needs the governor's assent. Our governor has to call for both the factions or has to convene the house for this confidence motion which has not been taken forward. Next is Prime Minister Modi's 10 noble commitments for BRICS. Try to remember these 10 noble commitments and they will help you to enrich your essay. And these 10 noble commitments are based on fight against terrorism, cyber security, and providing for disaster management. These are the central themes on which these 10 noble commitments are being made. Japan wants to develop missiles. So in this case, as I told to you previously, as Korean Peninsula is getting armed, militarized, Japan is moving away from its pacifist stand and is actively considering the development of missiles. Now, South Korea seeks bigger warheads. Here we need to talk about THAAD missiles and military exercises of South Korea with the United States of America. Next is, Center asks banks to restrict account of 2.09 lakh firms. Shadow firms, these are majorly used for money laundering. And in this case, the center has asked for the close down of their accounts. So obviously, it is going to, send a strong message to the markets and also for the tax evaders. And finally, the notes is there at laix.in/civilsprep. You can visit there. And I'm active again. And more videos I'll be giving it to you from today onwards. And you also are expected to subscribe to Law Excellence channel because Sandeep sir videos are being posted over there. And this is also called Civils Prep channel previously. Thank you very much and all the best.